Guys, feel free to jump in. I'm going to start going through some basketball stuff. But did you get to catch the interview or Shaq interviewed Kobe?
So I haven't watched it yet. So I was at the Saturday, the slam dunk yesterday.
Nice.
I was at the All-Star game today. So I have not got a chance to see it yet. I saw some excerpts. I have to watch it. I think tomorrow I'll get an opportunity to watch it, but I have not got a chance to see it yet.
So in the spirit of roundtable, did Dr. Bus do the right thing and keep Kobe? But at the same time, was Shaq really... Kobe, I felt like sometimes Kobe deserved the fire. You know, I felt like, you know what, you think you're this altruistic demigod, but really you're just a narcissistic go-to guy.
Yeah, I was definitely, at the time, I was in the Shaq camp. You know, I was always in the Shaq camp. Okay. I was always, you know, anytime anything went wrong, I was like, yeah, I'll just blame it on Kobe.
Right,
you know?
right.
But the reality is, you know, Dr. Jerry Buss, and what made him such an unbelievable owner is he was looking long term. Okay, what am I going to get? The perfect situation is they both got along and won 2 more championships or whatever the case was together. But Dr. Jerry Buss was looking at longevity. I got Kobe going into his prime. I got Shaq declining. So if this is a stock, which one do you want to keep? He kept the right person.
Right.
Because he knew and he had the confidence in himself and in his front office that they would eventually surround a team around Kobe Bryant, his drive, his wanting that killer mentality that he had. And that's exactly what they did. And they got 2 more championships out of it. So looking back at it now, Dr. Jerry Buss did what he's done his entire tenure, which is, you know, obviously the great late Dr. Jerry Buss. He's the greatest owner in the history of sports, in my opinion. 10 championships.
Sure.
10 championships. In his time of owning the team, from 1979 to I think he passed in 2013. He knew what he was doing, and if I was running the team, I would have picked the wrong guy and would have rode Shaq's coattail and then and figured out what happened. I was just a big Shaq fan, and I thought, you know, obviously that time Shaq was by far the best player in the league. He was so dominant, everything that he was doing, but Dr. Jerry Buss definitely made the right choice.
So Zach is an all-NBA guy. Jay is a Kobe guy. Zach, how did you feel when Shaq won in Miami?
Well, here's the thing. I was on the same board as him, where okay. I was a Shaq fan. I was a Laker fan growing up. And when that day happened, when Shaq went to Miami, that's when I was just like, I'm no longer a Laker fan. So that's when my allegiance split.
You got off the Laker wagon?
I just got off the Laker wagon. I was just like lost, and I was trying to find my way. I was trying to find lights, and I couldn't find anything. So I just became an NBA fan altogether. And that was around the same time when like other big superstars were going to other teams. So there was no loyalty. Like no.
There is, by the way, there is, you know, doing the show, and I joke around about it. One of the topics that came up was, would you want? One guy called in and said, well, I don't want LeBron on the Lakers. And I had to say, listen, I'm not saying LeBron's coming, but of course you want LeBron on the Lakers.
Of course.
And he's like, no, I don't. And then I had to propose a question to the fans out there. I'm like, all right, guys, help me feel a little better. You guys want LeBron on the Lakers, right? Not to say he's coming, but if the opportunity came, you would want LeBron on the Lakers. I got a ton of calls saying, no, we don't want LeBron. And the only thing that I could think of is that there are some Laker fans out there who, no matter what happens, they are Laker fans. And there were also some fans out there that were more a fan of Kobe than they were a fan of the Lakers. In your case, Lakers traded Shaq, and then you weren't
Dunzo
on the Lakers board anymore.
Exactly. And even just watching the Players Only interview last night, what I have to say about that is it's crazy how Dr. Buss had the balls to do what he did, because Mitch Kupchak didn't even do it. Like Mitch Kupchak had to go onto the cameras just to like announce it, which like Shaq later mentioned, like he drove down and wanted to choke him out. But like Dr. Buss called him and he said, Shaq, you're getting older. This guy's also the future, so I'm doing that. And like for him to just do that, ultimate blessings to him.
How about you, Jay? How did you feel when Shaq won at Miami?
I was a hater because Kobe actually solidified me as a Laker fan. I watched the Lakers growing up. I was actually a Celtics fan because my dad was a Celtics fan. But, I watched every Laker game. My dad would listen to Chick Hearn every game. But like you, I grew up a Laker fan under the Eddie Jones era and the Nick Van Exel. It was like, ooh, I like this team. And it was me in college, away from my parents, away from my dad, so I didn't have to, it was like, oh, okay, I'm digging this team. When Kobe and Shaq were feuding, I was already on the board. I was like, man, I do not want to be a Clipper fan. I was listening that summer. I was listening to the radio.
Because you could have went to the Clippers, right?
Yeah, everyone was just talking about it. Remember that? Like, that summer, I'm like, please don't go to the Clippers because I don't want to be a Clipper fan. And, when they did it, I was more than happy because it was really the work ethic, and it was really, that's what won me over was Shaq doesn't want to be in shape going into the season. I know I'm going to be in the finals, and I know he was that dominant. I know he was that dope, but
Shaq was chilling. Shaq was like, Kobe's going to do all the hard work.
Right.
Yep.
I saw that excerpt where he told Kobe, he's like, I was hanging out in the summer because I knew you were going to put in all the hard work.
After the first championship.
That's what it was?
Yeah, after the first championship, he was
and
like...
let's not give too much away from the... Because
okay.
Allen hasn't
It's all
seen...
right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I saw what ended up happening. I saw that. I saw the results.
Right. So, yeah, I mean... It's like the Manny Pacquiao fans and Floyd Mayweather fans. Those are what Andy Kamenetsky has named the Kobeyites. And I don't... I love the Lakers. I'm a Magic guy because I'm the oldest one here.
Yeah.
I'm a Magic guy. I like Kobe. I love Magic, like Kobe, hate his fans. Hate the rabidity of those fans. So I guess it's just up to us to exhale when we listen to someone go like, no, we don't want LeBron.
Yeah, the LeBron thing was just comical to me. And I was curious about it because I was like, no, people... I had a cousin who told me last week, he said, I don't want LeBron on the team. I'm like, I think I'll bring that up. If it comes up, I think I'll bring that up in the show. And then I just like shut him up. I'm like, bro, you want LeBron on your team. He's 26, 8-8. Don't tell me you don't want it. Yeah, but he wants to do things his way. He wants this. He wants... Oh, you mean he wants to win? You mean... You don't want to get back to the playoffs. You don't want to be relevant again.
Sure.
You don't want a chance to, I just look at it differently. At the end of the day, we cheer for these teams because we want them to succeed. So any way that they're succeeding, that doesn't mean they don't play the right way and they're playing team ball, any of that stuff. But if you got a chance to succeed, you jump on that opportunity. And look, Magic and Pelinka, those are two guys that are obviously prepping this entire D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr., all three of those guys not on this team for one reason and one reason only. You wanted to free up cap space to take a shot at any of those guys. They know that it's a star-driven league, and they're going to do everything they can to land one of these guys.
So you guys, what do you guys think? Do you clean up house if you can get Anthony Davis, Bronzo? Well, actually, Bronzo wouldn't be here because he'd be part of the cleanup crew. So Anthony Davis, Paul George, and LeBron, do you guys clean it up?
Yeah, absolutely, without hesitation.
I saw that article. That came out.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, did you All-Star game today? All three of those guys were in it. You know what I mean?
That's
So it's
what I'm
like,
saying.
it's not much of a conversation. Now there were times like last year when the Lakers didn't trade Brandon Ingram. Let's say Brandon Ingram was that last chip to go get DeMarcus Cousins. You could have made a case that the timing wasn't right because even with a player like that, you were still all these steps away. And many can make a case now and say, well, it's DeMarcus Cousins, and we see the numbers that he's putting up this year. But a combination of those three players, I mean, there are certain scenarios where you make moves because it gives you an immediate chance to compete for a championship, and a team like that, you'd be in a position to do so.
Because I
don't know how it would happen, but
that's why he's called Magic.
yeah.
But we have two younger generational guys here. They're all 25 and under. And I did mention we're part of the Lakers Nation Philippines podcast in Slam Hoops Manila. I was trying to explain to the administrators who are also 25 and under.
Yeah.
Look, yo, we had Eddie Jones, Ruben Patterson, Doug Christie, Sedale 3, Cedric Ceballos, and we had to roster overhaul. We had to do that. So you're going to have to accept that. I'm not saying you were in favor of like keeping Kuz and everyone, but I was trying to explain to them like, dude, this is about rings.
Yeah, and there's certain players that are only going to take you so far. You know, there's certain players that now listen, if you're on a long-term trajectory, if this summer, for example, Lakers nobody wants to come take their money, then we're looking at a long-term trajectory, and that game plan, you do build around Kuzma, you do build around Ingram, you do build around Lonzo, and maybe Julius Randle's in that mix, Josh Hart. You have to take more of a long-term plan. But at the end of the day, the only way you're going to get to that next level is by one player who's an all-star caliber player saying that, you know what, I want to be a part of whatever they're building down in Los Angeles, and that pendulum could swing, plus the development of your young kids. But you got to have stars. I mean, It's all great and dandy if you have young kids, but there's no corporation or business or anything that's winning with, you know, your main people being between the ages of 20 and 23.
Right.
20 and 24.
Did you guys have any like personal questions? Well, not uber personal.
Well-
What's your routing number and social security number?
No,
664.
but okay, so I'm kind of on the pendulum of Brandon Ingram. Last episode, I kind of said that I was like kind of done with him, but I was also the person that was like his defensive attorney saying like, no, we need to keep him. I trust him out of the three from Kuzma, Ball, and Ingram.
Are you off that boat now?
I think I want to still be with him because I still see the position of like he could drive to the hoop, and when he knows when to pass, it's unstoppable. So like I just wanted to know like how far on the pendulum are you with Ball, Ingram, and Kuzma?
I guess it would be your 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So
who-
ranking those three players.
for those
One
three.
being the highest priority to keep.
So I love Lonzo's game. I love what Lonzo Ball brings to the table, but we've seen just such a small sample size of it. I want to see more from him. If I had to say right now, most important player or most important piece, Ingram's going to be a player in this league. I mean, he is. I just think he's going to be a player. I mean, I watched him before the All-Star break. They play Oklahoma City, and Paul George is guarding him. And there's a couple plays where I'm like, PG couldn't guard him. And that's not every single play. And I'm not saying that they're isolating him on every play. But he did some things against Jimmy Butler. He did some things against Paul George. His average last year, 9 points a year. Now he's up to 16 points a year. Obviously for per game. There are many players who in their sophomore season who are all-stars now, like Kawhi Leonard, like Paul George, were averaging 12 points in their second year. So I think his potential offensively is just one asset of his game. He's also got that long, lanky, defensive. I can bother a lot of people, whether I'm blocking them or I'm not. I could switch on every screen. I mean, he's the epitome of today's NBA. I love Kuz, but I think Kuz has got a lot more work to do on defense before you can say he's a player like Brandon Ingram. I'd say between those three, I'd go Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma. And the reason why I put Lonzo at 2, and I would even push Lonzo at 1 if I could see him more, I just value point guards that distribute the ball. Growing up, Magic's my favorite player that I've ever watched play. I value that so much because the impact Lonzo can have on an entire game by not even shooting the ball is such a unique lost characteristic in the NBA that I'll leave Ingram there now, but in a year we might be saying Lonzo. If Lonzo 10, 7, and 7 so far in his rookie year, I know those numbers don't jump out, but it's not easy to get 7 rebounds and 7 assists as a rookie, as a 19, 20-year-old in the league.
Yeah.
So I think that's only gonna get better.
I thought before he got injured, Lonzo was he's starting to get aggressive, and the promise was there. I always tell people, I give people 2 years. I want to observe them for 2 years and see where they're at. Mm-hmm. Like Eddie Jones' first year, he wasn't doing much. Mm-hmm. But the second year, it's like, oh boy, look at this kid.
I think by his third year, he was like my password for my Hotmail account for a long time. I think everybody had their favorite player. I was like, Eddie Jones. I'm like, yeah, that's my guy. I don't have the Hotmail anymore.
That was
so
the
I
hardest.
get it.
That was the hardest one for me when they had to trade him, because it was I don't know. There was just something like, he brought it on both ends of the floor, and he played well with Shaq and Nick.
Oh, I love defensive players
And it
too.
was just, it was like
You got to have players like that too.
Yeah.
That's why Ingram too. Even if Ingram's not your number one star, and he's a player like he's what I don't know the best example. I don't know if Andre Iguodala is a good example because I think he'll be better than him offensively.
Sure.
I think there'll be other things that he'll do, but that's how important Brandon Ingram could be on a winning team. And obviously only time's going to tell.
It's just grooming. I think that whole cluster mess of having two Mikes, Mike D'Antoni and Mike Brown, and then you transition to Byron Scott, which I want to make the listeners and the viewers understand that's my opinion. Dinosaur for the era. Mm-hmm. And then now you have Luke Walton, and it's a little bit of Kobe Bryant hangover.
2 front offices, 2 head coaches in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what Ingram had to go through. That's what D'Angelo had to go through. That's what Randall's had to go through. It's not like the Lakers have been a stable organization where, everything's all... I think they're definitely becoming more stable. The stability is it's still a work in process, but they have not been a blueprint organization over the last 5 years. There's no way to say it.
So with that being said, how do you feel about Luke Walton? Do you feel as if you should give him more time, or do you think like as if he's on the hot seat?
I always look at it this way. What's the expectation coming into this season? If anybody was expecting the Lakers to win 40 games or fight for an 8th seed or make the playoffs, I'm sorry. Your expectations were off. They were way off. So then I go back to the head coach. The head coach, like Coach Luke Walton, last year they won 26 games. This year they're at 23. And I'm not going to just look at wins and losses because I think the trade that they just made is going to hurt them for trying to get up to 35 games, but it's a big picture perspective. Coach Luke Walton has kids between the age of 20 and 24. He's had obviously some injury issues. He has two different front offices sending him messages in the span of 2 years. I think to point the finger at Coach Luke Walton would be a huge mistake. And I think, the next 2 years would be indicative of the type of Coach Luke Walton is. I mean, he has a 5-year contract. He's in his second year of his 5-year contract as a 37-year-old. And like I mentioned, the Lakers have not done him justice. Nobody's done anybody justice, and hopefully now they become more stable. The last person I'm concerned about is the head coach. That's not to say that there are times where you're like, why didn't you leave Harden? Or why didn't you make this defensive rotation? But he's the last person I'm worried about because until the expectations increase and those expectations are realistic, I don't think he's underperformed by any stretch of the imagination because what they are today is kind of what you were expecting.
Jay, you got anything for?
Yeah, well, I wanted to kind of go back to the LeBron thing and the fans not wanting to have him. I mean, if we were to clean house, would you think that maybe they don't have that player like Kobe or in this case would it be Lonzo or Kuzma or Ingram that stayed back? Like, oh man, we don't have anything to hold on to. We're bringing on a whole new team. All-stars, sure, but it's like I want something that I can grow with or that I've grown with.
No, I get it. I mean, there's a lot of fans like that. I think Laker fans, I think there's a perception of Laker fans that they only want to win right now. I think there's a lot of Laker fans that kind of like this organic route that they're taking. And we're upset that D'Angelo Russell was gone. Are upset that Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. got traded. I think there is a larger percentage than most people think that there are patient Laker fans that want to see them develop this thing on their own. And there's a pridefulness of saying, yeah, that's a player we drafted and we cropped.
Raise the baby.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is, no matter what the Lakers do, I don't think their game plan is we want to clean house with our kids. I really don't think that. I think D'Angelo Russell would have been on the Lakers if they liked D'Angelo Russell.
Right.
But they didn't like D'Angelo Russell. Yeah. And frankly, and I've said this on the show a lot, I wasn't a D'Angelo Russell fan. I wasn't a fan of the Olay defense. I felt like it was about D'Angelo Russell and it wasn't about the team. And I guarantee you, when Magic and Pelinka came in, that's what they thought too, and that's why he was available in that deal to obviously unload Timofey Mozgov's contract. Yeah. And it was a good risk for Brooklyn to take, and we'll find out in a few years whether that was a good move or not. We don't know, right? But I think the plan was never to clean house. I think the plan was get 2 max players, get space for 2 max players, because all these other kids are on rookie contracts.
Yep.
And because they're on rookie contracts, now you can afford everything. It sounds great, but actually doing it is going to be such a challenge this summer, because if you think the Lakers are the only one going after Paul George, that the Oklahoma City are the only ones going after, I guarantee you there'll be dark horses that come out of nowhere that are playoff ready and might be a Paul George away from competing for a championship. They're all going to come out of the woodworks that we don't know about, and this is where Magic and Pelinka are going to have to shine.
Plus, no one wants to help the Lakers.
Yep.
Why do people want to help the Lakers?
Look at the Pacers.
We haven't won since 2010. You know how long that is?
Well,
I'm just
I
kidding.
guess it took 12 years from, was it 88 to 2000?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
No, nobody does. Nobody wants it. And they shouldn't. Why should they? The Lakers have had so much success that the last thing they want to do is
To
help.
both of your credits, I mean, it's been since 2010, but even when the Pacers were like, no, we're not trading Paul George to the Lakers, like they would rather trade him to the Thunder, and then afterwards go to the league and say like, hey, there was tampering from the Lakers. There was tampering.
The commissioner wouldn't allow a trade, when Chris Paul...
former Laker Chris Paul.
I mean, literally...
Honorary for a day.
That is funny. No, it was like 2 hours. I remember screenshotting that and being like, you remember this? Remember when we had Chris Paul?
Right.
But it's not even just other NBA teams that don't want to help him. Literally, the league jumped in the way of a trade. It's unheard of. And I understand, the Pelicans or the Hornets at the time were owned by the NBA and they could jump in for that for basketball reasons. If that ain't the Lakers, ain't nobody jumping in. It was the worst, like from a timing perspective. They just came out of the lockout, talked about how smaller market teams want to compete. You had owners like Dan Gilbert crying about the situation, the predicament. And then the challenge for the Lakers is not just other teams. In that position, I thought it was the NBA as well.
And then I thought the Lakers were trying to do 2 things too much. Win, and then also try to put up a stable when they had like Dwight Howard and Steve Nash. You get 2 solid guys. It didn't work, but at the same time, this was the Earl Clark, Antoine Jameson era.
Yeah.
So I just thought like that
They went
front
all
office.
in. They went all in.
That front office did things
4
2/3
draft
correct.
picks for Steve Nash. They went all in. That was this is our window. Kobe is still here, still around, still, one of the elite players in the league. We're going to get Dwight Howard. We slapped Pau Gasol. You got Steve Nash. Oh, it all looked good. I remember when it all went down. I was like, this is better than Chris Paul.
Sure.
This is better. And
Antoine Jameson coming off the bench.
Yep, and it never worked out.
And then what was frustrating was the 2011 season, you replace Shasha, Jordan Farmar, and Luke Walton with the Killer Bees, which is Shannon
Barnes.
Brown, Steve Blake, and Matt Barnes. I was like, okay, this is hella deep.
Yeah, that's Go
figure, huh?
There was a lot there, and you're not going to win everything. I mean, honestly, the start of the Lakers' demise was when the health of Dr. Jerry Buss, I thought, started going down. And
agreed.
You have a family-owned business that's now trying to take over. I think Jeannie, the one thing with Jeannie Buss is I feel like she wants to win for Laker fans. She wants to win for her dad's legacy. Like, she wants to continue that. So to have an owner that cares as much as she does, typically you're going to have success at some point because somebody cares so much. Just the transition part of it, the Jim Buss part of it, that's what has held the Lakers back, in my opinion, the last couple of years.
Well, Allen, we've taken a lot of your time.
Appreciate you guys having me.
This is great.
Fun to do this.
Yeah.